So let's take a deep breath in and then out through our nose. And as we're doing this, just kind of scan your body for any kind of stress or tension and keep your feet flat on the ground. So we're kind of going to ground ourselves. Are you filming this?
Yeah, we're filming this. Welcome to the Sugar Treatment, where we bake and heal together. My name's Anthony, aka the Baking Social Worker. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and email me at thesugartreatment@gmail.com. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about here on the show. As you can see, I have my friend and expert, Megan, here with us. She's gonna be talking to us today all about trauma in the brain, which I'm really excited about. She also brought a couple of recipes with her today.
Yes, we're gonna be making circus animal truffles and OREO cookie truffles.
Yum. I'm so excited, shall we?
Yes.
Let's get started. This is all you're gonna need for the circus animal and OREO cookie truffles. So can you tell us what we're gonna do first?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these yummy cookies and we're going to use a bag of them and we're gonna put them in the blender and we're gonna blend them all up until they're a little crushed.
We crushed up all of our cookies. I have 36 OREO cookies, and you have a full bag of the circus animal cookies.
Yes.
I said cookies a lot. We've got our cream cheese here. I'm gonna mix 8 ounces of cream cheese with my Oreos, and you're gonna do 4.
Which is half.
Half.
So my name is Megan Healy, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I work with children who have been victims of abuse and neglect. And part of that is just learning about trauma and how it will affect them in their day-to-day.
Nice. I love that. I love having experts in my life. What drew you to this work?
So the world of trauma in the brain is kind of a science that's really developing, and we're learning more and more about how trauma affects brain development as well as how it affects people throughout their life. And as I was learning and as I began working in my field, it just became an ever-present factor of understanding trauma and just understanding how that affects people. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really fascinating. And one of the most interesting studies that I was looking at was the ACEs study. And
what does ACEs stand for?
So ACEs actually stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. And that's it's kind of a basic term for trauma. So it's just anything that really kind of dramatically affects someone in a situation that is scary or harming, and kind of anything that creates a fight or flight sense in the brain. And also the important part is when we're mixing the cream cheese, just kind of want to mush it in.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm trying to mush it in.
Yeah.
I was just so captivated by what you were saying. Wasn't also, because I feel like I've heard of this study, wasn't also one of them most, I guess, devastating, or one of the most, I don't know, difficult findings was that wasn't something like half of people had experienced
some form of trauma.
Some form of trauma.
Yeah, so there's about 50% of the people that they did the study on had some form, they were able to test at some point of the ACEs. So they were learning that a lot of people have a lot that happened to them in their childhood. Yeah. And so because of that, they're trying to figure out what to do, how to intervene so that there's not as many long-term effects. And so it was actually done with the CDC in Kaiser in Northern California, just trying to understand of how to be preventative with health and various other kind of devastating effects.
How is your cream cheese mixing? And mine is pretty good.
So mine's almost done. And basically what we want is it to be kind of tacky and Play-Doh-y. So we want to be able to be malleable in it so that we can form our little balls.
Oh, malleable.
So what we do is we can take a little spoonful and then just kind of put it in the center of our hand. And what we did is we put a little bit of cooking grease in here just to kind of help morph them into little balls.
Little truffles.
Little truffle balls. And
love that.
They don't have to be perfect, but we just want them so that they're ready so they can sit.
Nice. We'll just put them on our tray. We've got our truffles rolled. They look great. We're gonna put these in the fridge for about 30 minutes. And while they're cooling, we're gonna talk more about trauma. I appreciate you explaining the ACEs study and the adverse childhood experiences, because I feel like, and I've talked about it on my channel a little bit already, I feel like I've experienced a number of those things growing up, being around violence, being around drugs and alcohol, experiencing different kinds of loss, and this all happened before age 10, maybe even before age 6, I would say.
Right. Children in those ages, it's really important brain development is happening, and they're kind of, the brain and all the different systems in the brain, they're all talking to each other during that time, and they're building communication pathways and various ways that help us kind of be as successful as we're going to be. So when you have a lot of trauma like that, when there's a lot of fighting or there's a lot of loss or kind of just fear,
a lot of fear.
Oftentimes your body starts to do the fight or flight mode, and when there's an emergency, that's good. It teaches us how to get in and get out and kind of just like to avoid getting hurt or dangerous situations.
So it serves a function, an important function.
It serves a very important function. And oftentimes when there's a fight or flight or a lot of adrenaline going on, your brain isn't regulating appropriately. It's not being able to calm you down. You're not getting serotonin, all of that.
I see. So you're not actually able to go, okay, I'm activated right now, but I'm safe and I can do, like, I feel I'm okay, so I can bring myself down. You can't do that.
No, and your brain actually is constantly thinking it's in a dangerous situation. So when you're in a dangerous situation, you have one goal, and that's to get out of it. You're not able to learn, kind of observe your surroundings and take in what's going on around you.
I see.
Yeah. And
so a lot of overactivation.
A lot of overactivation. And then that kind of affects you both socially, developmentally, behaviorally, and educationally.
Well, yeah, I imagine if you can't regulate, right? Like if you can't bring yourself down, you probably have a tough time like focusing in school or like creating friendships, or I don't know, you're probably just all like, you know.
You're very anxious a lot of times. And then also you'll do things like you'll be really quick to react. You'll flip your lid really quickly. And so
I love flipping that lid.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I'm like okay now, but I used to flip that lid.
However, one thing that they're learning is that even if there is damage to these kind of relationships inside the brain, we can fix it. And there's various different treatments that we can utilize.
Nice.
And also they're learning that having one supportive adult figure in your life can really help benefit and learn how to create those appropriate positive relationships, how to create a trusting, safe home. And it can just really help you to be able to form better ways to deal with trauma or stress.
You know, one thing I like to do on the show is educate, but then also try to like give our audience tools and things that they can do to actively try to heal. And so you just kind of preview the last question I have for you, which is what are we gonna do about this? So why don't we go ahead and check on our truffles. We'll start dipping them. And then while we're doing that, you can tell us what we can do to try to heal from our trauma. We've got our chocolate chips. You've got white chocolate chips. I have milk chocolate and dark. We're gonna go ahead and melt these down in the microwave for 30 seconds at a time. We don't wanna overheat them.
No, we don't want to over melt them because when we do that, they kind of separate and then you can't go back from that.
Yeah, 30 seconds at a time. We'll take it out, stir it up, and then do it all over again until they're nice and melted. Our truffles are cooled. We've got our chocolate melted, so we're ready to decorate these things.
Absolutely.
Are we ready? I also have another question for you, which you kind of teased a little bit, is how in the world do we deal with this trauma? How do we heal? How do we get better?
Right. And so one of the things that with all the different science and studies that we're having right now, we're learning that there's ways to be able to help the brain be able to kind of address the prior trauma and then be able to work past it. And so while I'm talking about this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our cooled little truffles and we're just gonna kind of drop them in the chocolate, do a little top over, and I'm just using a fork. And then we just take them out, let them sit, little tail drip off, and then go right.
Oh, see, I didn't do the drip thing.
Back on the parchment paper.
Mine are gonna be real thick.
Part of addressing trauma and getting past trauma is actually having to address it. Because I know a lot of times there's various kind of cultural stigmas to that, as well as just kind of saying like, if I don't think about it, I'm gonna get past it.
It's also scary to like face it.
It's terrifying, and oftentimes as you're readdressing the trauma, a lot of things come back and it's hard and painful. And you know, I don't wanna feel pain when I don't have to.
Yeah.
But in order to be successful with it, you kind of do have to re-go through it. And so there's certain therapies that you're able to do. TFCBT is trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And what that does is it walks you through a path of being able to address your prior trauma and then learn how to properly kind of deal with various factors from the trauma, with is anxiety, stress, having issues creating good relationships, proper boundaries with people. There's also a therapy called EMDR, which you use light and you kind of work on the rapid eye movements. And it actually works on creating the pathways between the right and the left side of the brain. And it helps you to be able to acknowledge your trauma, work with your trauma, and get past your trauma. And those are all really helpful.
And if you're not ready, like we're sitting here saying like you have to face your trauma to heal from it, and that can feel really daunting, right? So people have lived through some really awful things, right? That I haven't even experienced, and I would never like blame someone for not being able to face that. And so I think like, if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Absolutely.
And you got to take your time to get there and like be kind to yourself in that process.
Definitely.
Because there will come a day where you do feel ready and you're capable of going into a therapy room or, you know, going into, I don't know, a meditation or whatever, wherever it is that you're going to do your healing.
And I can't stress enough to be able to be working with someone who is a professional in this area. You know, I'm not your therapist and I'm not your clinician, so I can't tell you where you are. But it's really important that you have that person that you can rely on that is certified in these different areas and that they work with you and you kind of trust them in the relationship. They're gonna look great.
Yeah, and they're gonna taste good.
That's all that matters.
Ta-da! We did it. Look at these truffles. They look so good. Thank you so much to you for being here, number one.
It was a pleasure.
Appreciate all the expertise. And thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and email me at thesugartreatment@gmail.com. Let me know what you'd like us to talk about here on the show. I'm gonna also put some resources in the description of the video for some mindfulness exercises like we did at the beginning, and also for the ACEs, study test, which you can take at home. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so I'm gonna try this one.
Get this with all the sprinkles.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Oh my God.
They're so good.
So good, so easy. You have to make these. Keep it sweet.